Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Health Sciences, SOHS, Diploma Programmes. Postgraduate Diploma in Hospital and Health Management, PGDHHM, revised. MHH-101 Introduction to Management. Volume 1. Block-1 General Management. Unit-1 Concepts and Principles of Management. 1.0 Objectives. After going through the unit, you should be able to describe the definition and importance of management. Describe evolution of management concepts during the various schools of management: scientific, classical and behavioral. Describe various models of organizational behavior. Describe the total quality management movement and contingency approach in management. Describe systems approach, recent developments in management, theory and skills of future manager, and list the principles of management. 1.1 Introduction. Management is the practice of consciously and continually shaping organizations. All organizations have people who are responsible for helping them achieve their goals. These people are called managers. All organizations are required to accomplish a given task according to schedule and predetermined program. Management is an integral part of the organization. Management is a process for effective and efficient planning and regulations of the operations of an organization. It is an art of applying the principles that underline the control of men and materials in an organization. These theories and principles have been developed over the years and are universally applicable to all organizations. In this unit you will learn about the evolution of management concepts during the various schools of management: scientific, classical and behavioral, various models of organizational behavior, concepts of total quality management movement and contingency approach in management, principles of management, recent developments in management and skills of future manager. 1.2 Definition and importance of management. All organizations are required to accomplish a given task according to schedule and predetermined program. Management is an integral part of the organization. Various definitions of management are as follows. Management is a process for effective and efficient planning and regulations of the operations of an organization. Management is an art of applying the economics principles that underline the control of men and materials in an organization. Management is the force that integrates men and physical resources onto an effective operating unit. Management covers the formation of policy, its execution, designing of the organization and its employment. Management is the attainment of pre-established goals by the direction of human performance along re-established lines. Management is guiding human and physical resources into dynamic organizational units, which attain their objectives to the satisfaction of those served and a high degree of morale and sense of attainment on the part of those rendering the services. Management is to forecast and plan, to organize, to command, to coordinate and to control. 1.3 The scientific management school theories are perspective with which people make sense of their world experiences. Formally, a theory is a coherent group of assumptions put forth to explain the relationship between two or more observable facts. Theories provide a stable focus for understanding what we experience. A theory provides criteria for determining what is relevant. Theories enable us to communicate efficiently and thus move into more and more complex relationships with other people. Third, theories challenge us to keep learning about our world. Scientific management theory arose in part from the need to increase productivity. In the United States especially, skilled labor was in short supply at the beginning of the 20th century. To expand the productivity, Frank and Lillian Gilbreth devised the body of principles known as scientific management theory. Frederick W. Taylor, 1956 to 1915, rested his philosophy on four basic principles: the development of a true science of management, so that the best method for performing each task could be determined; the scientific selection of workers, so that each worker would be given responsibility for the task for which he or she was best suited; the scientific education and development of the worker. Intimate, friendly cooperation between management and labor. F.W. Taylor is considered as father of scientific management, was pioneer in analyzing human work. His thesis was that productivity can be increased endlessly. Taylor's approach was mechanical. He equated men with machines. Machines works best when well maintained and lubricated. So, if workers are given good working condition, trained well and paid well, the production would increase. He lost sight of feeling, emotions, intelligence in man and work. The basic premise of scientific management propounded by him was that science, not rule of thumb, harmony, not discord, cooperation, not individualism, maximum output in place of restricted output, the development of each man to his greatest efficiency and prosperity. Taylor described four pillars of clerical theory as division of labor, scalar process dealing with vertical and horizontal functioning of an organization, structure in terms of line and staff relationship in an organization, span of control. The modern assembly line pours out finished products faster than Taylor could ever have imagined. This production miracle is just one legacy of scientific management. In addition, its efficiency techniques have been applied to many tasks in non-industrial organizations, ranging from fast food service to the training of surgeons. 1.4 Classical Organization Theory. School. Scientific management was concerned with increasing the productivity of the shop and the individual worker. Classical organization theory grew out of the need to find guidelines for managing such complex organizations as factories. Henry Fayal. Henri Fayal is considered as chief architect of administration stream. He emphasized efficiency at higher levels. He focused on problems of top management. He enunciated that principles of management are universal and are applicable to all organizations. Fayal was also the originator of organization chart. He highlighted the need to define role, duty and responsibility for every employee of the organization. According to Fayal, management consists of following 5 elements: to forecast and plan, examining the future and drawing up the plan of action; to organize, building up the structure, materials and human resources of the undertaking; to command, maintaining activity among the personnel; to coordinate, building together, unifying and harmonizing all activities and efforts; to control, seeing that everything occurs in conformity with established rules and expressed demand. Max Weber. Reasoning that any goal-oriented organization consisting of thousands of individuals would require the carefully controlled regulation of its activities. The German sociologist Max Weber, 1864–1920, developed a theory of bureaucratic management that stressed the need for a strictly defined hierarchy governed by clearly defined regulations and lines of authority. He considered the ideal organization to be a bureaucracy whose activities and objectives were rationally thought out and whose divisions of labor were explicitly spelled out. Weber also believed that technical competence should be emphasized and that performance evaluations should be made entirely on the basis of merit. He emphasized that the distinction between power and authority needs to be understood clearly. Power is ability to force people to obey irrespective of their resistance, whereas authority is acceptance without resistance. He mentioned various types of authorities such as charismatic, based on individuals' personality; traditional, based on customs; rational, legal, rational because means are expressly designed to achieve certain objectives; Mary Parker Follett. Mary Parker Follett, 1868 to 1933, was among those who built on the basic framework of the classical school. However, she introduced many new elements, especially in the area of human relations and organizational structure. In this, she initiated trends that would be further developed by the emerging behavioral and management science schools. Follett was convinced that no one could become a whole person except as a member of a group. Human beings grew through their relationships with others in organizations. In fact, she called management the art of getting things done through people. She took for granted Taylor's assertion that labor and management shared a common purpose as members of the same organization, but she believed that the artificial distinction between managers, order givers, and subordinates, order takers, obscured this natural partnership. She was a great believer in the power of the group, where individuals could combine their diverse talents into something bigger. Moreover, Follett's holistic model of control took into account not just individuals and groups, but the effects of such environmental factors as policies, economics, and biology. Follett's model was an important forerunner of the idea that management meant more than just what was happening inside a particular organization. By explicitly adding the organizational environment to her theory, Follett paved the way for management theory to include a broader set of relationships, some inside the organization and some across the organization's borders. A diverse set of modern management theories pays homage to Follett on this point. 1.5 The Behavioral School. The organization is people. The behavioral school emerged partly because the classical approach did not achieve sufficient production efficiency and workplace harmony. To managers' frustration, people did not always perform according to predicted or expected patterns of behavior. Thus there was increased interest in helping managers deal more effectively with the people side of their organizations. Several theorists tried to strengthen classical organization theory with the insights of sociology and psychology. Organizational behavior, commonly referred to as OP, is an interdisciplinary field dedicated to better understanding and managing people at work. By definition, organizational behavior is both research and application oriented. Three basic levels of analysis in OB are individual, group, and organizational. OB draws upon a diverse array of disciplines, including psychology, management, sociology, organization theory, social psychology, statistics, anthropology, general systems theory, economics, information technology, political science, vocational counseling, human stress management, psychometrics, ergonomics, decision theory, and ethics. Models of organizational behavior. The four models are as follows. 1.5.1. The autocratic model. The autocratic model has its roots in history, and certainly, it became the prevailing model of the Industrial Revolution. In an autocratic environment, the managerial orientation is formal official authority. The right of command delegates this authority over the people to whom it applies. Management believes that it knows what is best and that the employee's obligation is to follow orders. It assumes that employees have to be directed, persuaded, and pushed into performance, and such prompting is management's task. Management does the thinking, the employees obey the orders. This conventional view of management leads to tight control of employees at work. When combined with the often brutal and back-breaking physical tasks of that era and the intolerable conditions of disease, filth, danger, and scarcity of resources, the autocratic model was intensely disliked by many employees, and still is. Under autocratic conditions, the employee orientation is obedience to a boss, not respect for a manager. The psychological result for employees is dependence on their boss, whose power to hire, fire and perspire them is almost absolute. The boss pays minimum wages because employees give minimum performance. They are willing to give minimum performance, though sometimes reluctantly, because they must satisfy subsistence needs for themselves and their families. Some employees give higher performance because of internal achievement drives, because they personally like their boss, because the boss is a natural-born leader, or because of some other factor, but most of them give only minimum performance. The autocratic model is a useful way to accomplish work. It is not complete failure. The picture of the autocratic model just presented is an extreme one. Actually, the model exists in all shades of grey, from rather dark to rather light. 1.5.2. The custodial model. As managers began to study their employees, they soon recognized that although autocratically managed employees did not talk back to their boss, they certainly thought back. There were many things they wanted to say, and sometimes they did say them when they quit or lost their tempers. Employees were filled with insecurity, frustrations, and aggressions toward their boss. Since they could not vent these feelings directly, sometimes they went home and vented them on their families and neighbors, so the entire community might suffer from this relationship. It seemed rather obvious to progressive employers that there ought to be some way to develop better employee satisfaction and security. If the insecurities, frustrations, and aggressions of employees could be dispelled, the employees might feel more like working. In any case, they would have a better quality of work life. A successful custodial approach depends on economic resources. The resulting managerial orientation is toward money to pay wages and benefits. Since employees' physical needs are already reasonably met, the employer looks to security needs as a motivating force. If an organization does not have the wealth to provide pensions and pay other benefits, it cannot follow a custodial approach. The custodial approach leads to employee dependence on the organization. Rather than being dependent on their boss for their weekly bread, employees now depend on organizations for their security and welfare. Employees working in a custodial environment become psychologically preoccupied with their economic rewards and benefits. As a result of their treatment, they are well maintained and contented. However, contentment does not necessarily produce strong motivation, it may produce only passive cooperation. The result tends to be that employees do not perform much more effectively than under the old autocratic approach. The custodial model emphasis on material rewards, security, and organizational dependence. Its great benefit is that it brings security and satisfaction to workers, but it does have substantial flaws. The most evident flaw is that most employees are not producing anywhere near their capacities, nor they are capable. Though employees are happy, most of them really do not feel fulfilled or motivated. 1.5.3. The supportive model. The supportive model of organizational behavior had its origin in the principle of supportive relationships as stated by Rensis Likert, who said, "The leadership and other processes of the organization must be such as to ensure a maximum probability that in all interactions and all relationships with the organization each member will, in the light of his, or her, background, values, and expectations, view the experience as supportive and one which builds and maintains his, or her, sense of personal worth and importance." The supportive model depends on leadership instead of power or money. Through leadership, management provides a climate to help employees grow and accomplish in the interests of the organization the things of which they are capable. The leader assumes that workers are not by nature passive and resistant to organizational needs, but they are made so by an inadequately supportive climate at work. They will take responsibility, develop a drive to contribute, and improve them if management will give them a chance. Management's orientation, therefore, is to support the employee's job performance, rather than to simply support employee benefit payments as in the custodial approach. Since management supports employees in their work, the psychological result is a feeling of participation and task involvement in the organization. Employees may say we instead of they when referring to their organization. They are more strongly motivated than by earlier models because their status and recognition needs are better met. Thus they have awakened drive for work. Supportive behavior is not the kind of behavior that requires money, rather, it is a part of management's lifestyle at work, reflected in the way that it deals with other people. The manager's role is one of helping employees solve their problems and accomplish their work. 1.5.4. The collegial model. A useful extension of the supportive model is the collegial model. The term collegial relates to a body of people having a common purpose. The collegial model, which embodies a team concept, first achieved widespread applications in research laboratories and similar work environments. More recently it has been applied in a wide range of other work situations as well. The collegial model traditionally was used less on assembly lines, because the rigid work environment made it difficult to develop there. A contingency relationship exists in which the collegial model tends to be more useful with programmed work, an intellectual environment, and considerable job freedom. In other environments, management often believes that other models may be more successful. The collegial model depends on management's building a feeling of partnership with employees. The result is that employees feel needed and useful. They feel that managers are contributing also, so it is easy to accept and respect their roles in the organization. Managers are seen as joint contributors rather than as bosses. The feeling of partnerships can be built in many ways. Some organizations have abolished the use of reserved parking spaces for executives, so every employee has an equal chance of finding a space close to the workplace. Some firms have tried to eliminate the use of terms like bosses and subordinates, feeling that those terms simply create perceptions of psychological distance between managers and non-managers. Other employers have removed time clocks, set up fun committees, sponsored company canoe trips, or required managers to spend a week or two annually working in field or factory locations. All these approaches are designed to build a spirit of mutuality, in which every person makes contributions and appreciates those of others. The managerial orientation is toward teamwork. Management is the coach that builds a better team. The employee response to this situation is responsibility. For example, employees produce quality work not because management tells them to do so or because the inspector will catch them if they do not, but because they feel inside themselves an obligation to provide others with high quality. They also feel an obligation to uphold quality standards that will bring credit to their jobs and company. The psychological result of the collegial approach for the employee is self-discipline. Feeling responsible, employees discipline themselves for performance on the team in the same way that the members of a football team discipline themselves to training standards and the rules of the game. In this kind of environment, employees normally feel some degree of fulfillment, worthwhile contribution, and self-actualization, even though the amount may be modest in some situations. This self-actualization will lead to moderate enthusiasm in performance. The collegial model tends to produce improved results in situations where it is appropriate. 1.6 The Human Relations Movement. A unique combination of factors during the 1930s fostered the human relations movement. First, following legalization of union management. Collective bargaining in the United States in 1935, management began looking for new ways of handling employees. Second, behavioral scientists conducting on-the-job research started calling for more attention to the human factor. Managers who had lost the battle to keep unions out of their factories heeded the call for better human relations and improved working conditions. One such study, conducted at Western Electric's Chicago area Hawthorne plant, was a prime stimulus for the human relations movement. Ironically, many of the Hawthorne findings have turned out to be more myth than fact. Elton Mayo. In his famous Hawthorne investigations, Elton Mayo highlighted the human and social aspects of management. He discovered the existence of informal organization, which it is now realized exists in all organizations. It led to a fuller realization and understanding of the human factor in work situations. The central to this was the discovery of the informal group. He highlighted the importance of an adequate communication system, particularly upwards, from workers to management. According to him, manager succeeds or fails in the proportion as he is accepted without reservation by the group as well as their leader. Mary Parker Follett. Follett was a true pioneer, not only as a woman management consultant in the male-dominated industrial world of the 1920s, but also as a writer who saw employees as complex combinations of attitudes, beliefs, and needs. Mary Parker Follett was way ahead of her time in telling managers to motivate job performance instead of merely demanding it, a pull rather than push strategy. She also built a logical bridge between political democracy and a cooperative spirit in the workplace. MacGregor's Theory Why. In 1960, Douglas MacGregor wrote a book entitled The Human Side of Enterprise, which has become an important philosophical base for the modern view of people at work. Drawing upon his experience as a management consultant, MacGregor formulated two sharply contrasting sets of assumptions about human nature, see Table 1.1. His Theory X. Assumptions were pessimistic and negative and, according to MacGregor's interpretation, typical of how managers traditionally perceived employees. To help managers break with this negative tradition, MacGregor formulated his Theory Why, a modern and positive set of assumptions about people. MacGregor believed managers could accomplish more through others by viewing them as self-energized, committed, responsible, and creative beings. A survey of 10,227 employees from many industries across the United States challenges managers to do a better job of acting on MacGregor's theory. Why assumptions? From the employee's perspective, Theory X management practices are the major barrier to productivity improvement and employee well-being, the researcher concluded. The most noteworthy finding from their survey is that an overwhelming number of American workers, some 97%, desire work conditions known to facilitate high productivity. Workers uniformly reported that they needed and wanted in their own workplaces the conditions for collaboration, commitment, and creativity researchers demonstrated as necessary for both productivity and health. Just as noteworthy, however, is the finding that the actual conditions of work supplied by management are those conditions that research has identified as competence suppressors, procedures, policies, and practices that prevent or punish expressions of competence and most characterize unproductive organizations. Table 1.1, MacGregor's Theory X and Theory Outdated. Theory X, Assumptions about People at Work and Modern Theory Y, Assumptions about People at Work. Look at the screen. Theory Z. Theory Z is an approach to management based upon a combination of American and Japanese management philosophies and characterized by, among other things, long-term job security, consensual decision-making, slow evaluation and promotion procedures, and individual responsibility within a group context. Proponents of Theory Z suggest that it leads to improvements. Theory Z has been called a sociological description of the humanistic organizations advocated by management pioneers such as Elton Mayo, Chrysagoras, Rensis Likert, and Douglas MacGregor. Theory Z was first identified as a unique management approach by William Ouchi. He cited several companies as examples of Type Z organizations and proposed that a Theory Z management approach could lead to greater employee job satisfaction, lower rates of absenteeism and turnover, higher quality products, and better overall financial performance for U.S. firms adapting Theory Z management practices. According to Professor Ouchi, Theory Z organizations exhibit a strong, homogeneous set of cultural values that are similar to clan cultures. The clan culture is characterized by homogeneity of values, beliefs, and objectives. Clan cultures emphasize complete socialization of members to achieve congruence of individual and group goals. Although Theory Z organizations exhibit characteristics of clan cultures, they retain some elements of bureaucratic hierarchies, such as formal authority relationships, performance evaluation, and some work specialization. Proponents of Theory Z suggest that the common cultural values should promote greater organizational commitment among employees. The primary features of Theory Z are summarized as follows. Long-term employment. Type Z organizations generally make lifelong commitments to their employees and expect loyalty in return, but Type Z organizations set the conditions to encourage this. This promotes stability in the organization and job security among employees. Consensual decision-making. The Type Z organization emphasizes communication, collaboration, and consensus in decision-making. This marks a contrast from the traditional organization that emphasizes individual decision-making. Individual responsibility. Performance measures in Type Z companies have been oriented to the group. Thus, Type Z organizations retain the emphasis on individual contributions by recognizing individual achievements, albeit within the context of the wider group. Slow evaluation and promotion. An American organization has generally been characterized by short-term evaluations of performance and rapid promotion of high achievers. The Type Z organization, conversely, adopts the Japanese model of slow evaluation and promotion. Informal control with formalized measures. The Type Z organization relies on informal methods of control, but does measure performance through formal mechanisms. Moderately specialized career path. The Type Z organization adopts a middle-of-the-road posture, with career paths that are less specialized than the traditional U.S. model but more specialized than the traditional Japanese model. Holistic concern. The Type Z organization is characterized by concern for employees that goes beyond the workplace. This philosophy is more consistent with the Japanese model than the U.S. model. Research into whether Theory Z organizations outperform others has yielded mixed results. Some studies suggest that Type Z organizations achieve benefits both in terms of employee satisfaction, motivation, and commitment as well as in terms of financial performance. Other studies conclude that Type Z organizations do not outperform other organizations. The human relations movement opened the door to more progressive thinking about human nature. Rather than continuing to view employees as passive economic beings, managers began to see them as active social beings and took steps to create more humane work environments. 1.7 The total quality management movement. A great deal has been written and said about quality in recent years. So much, in fact, that total quality management, TQM, has been dismissed by some as just another fad. Yet TQM programs are alive and well in the workplace. Training Magazine's 1995 survey of U.S. companies with 100 or more employees found 58% of them pursuing TQM initiatives, more than any other type of program. Similar has been the trend in India. Disregarding the underlying principles of TQM because of apparent faddishness would be unwise, as ignoring sound nutrition and exercise guidelines because of endless discussions about dieting. TQM principles have profound practical implications for managing people today. What is TQM? TQM means that the organization's culture is defined by and supports the constant attainment of customer satisfaction through an integrated system of tools, techniques, and training. This involves the continuous improvement of organizational processes, resulting in high-quality products and services. Quality consultant Richard J. Schoenberger sums up TQM as continuous, customer-centered, employee-driven improvement. TQM is necessarily employee-driven because product/service quality cannot be continuously improved without the active learning and participation of every employee. Thus, in successful quality improvement programs, TQM principles are embedded in the organization's culture. The Deming legacy, TQM is firmly established today thanks in large part to the pioneering work of W. Edwards Deming. Ironically, the mathematician credited with Japan's post-World War I quality revolution rarely talked in terms of quality. He instead preferred to discuss good management during the hard-hitting seminars Ty delivered right up until his death at age 93 in 1993. Although Deming's passion was the statistical measurement and reduction of variations in industrial process, he had much to say about how employees should be treated. Regarding the human side of quality improvement, Deming called for the following: formal training in statistical process control techniques and teamwork. Helpful leadership, rather than order giving and punishment. Elimination of fear so employees will feel free to ask questions. Emphasis on continuous process improvements rather than on numerical quotas. Teamwork. Elimination of barriers to good workmanship. One of Deming's most enduring lessons for managers is his 85-15 rule. Specifically, when things go wrong, there is roughly an 85% chance the system, including management, machinery, and rules, is at fault. Only about 15% of the time is the individual employee at fault. Unfortunately, as Deming observed, the typical manager spends most of his or her time wrongly blaming the punishing individuals for system failures. Statistical analysis is required to uncover system failures. Principles of TAKU-MA. Despite variations in the language and scope of TAKU-MA programs, it is possible to identify 4 common TAKU-MA principles. Do it right the first time to eliminate costly rework. Listen to and learn from customers and employees. Make continuous improvement on everyday matter. Build teamwork, trust, and mutual respect. Deming's influence is clearly evident in this list. Once again, as with the human relations movement, we see people as the key factor in organizational success. In summary, TAKU-MA advocates have made a valuable contributor to the field of OP by providing a practical context for managing people. When people are managed according to TAKU-MA principles, everyone is more likely to get the employment opportunities and high-quality goods and services they demand. 1.8 The contingency approach. Scholars have wrestled for many years with the problem of how best to apply the diverse and growing collection of management tools and techniques. Their answer is the contingency approach. The contingency approach calls for using management techniques in a situational appropriate manner, instead of trying to rely on one best way. According to contingency theorists, contingency theories developed and their acceptance grew largely because they responded to criticisms that the classical theories advocated one best way of organizing and managing. Contingency theories, on the other hand, proposed that the appropriate organizational structure and management style were dependent upon a set of contingency factors, usually the uncertainty and instability of the environment. The contingency approach encourages managers to view organizational behavior within a situational context. According to this modern perspective, evolving situations, no hard and fast rules, determine when and where various management techniques are appropriate. For example, contingency researchers have determined that there is no single best style of leadership. Organizational behavior specialists embrace the contingency approach because it helps them realistically interrelate individuals, groups, and organizations. Moreover, the contingency approach sends a clear message to managers in today's global economy. Carefully read the situation and then be flexible enough to adapt. 1.9 The Management Science School. Operations Research. At the beginning of World War II, Great Britain desperately needed to solve a number of new, complex problems in warfare. With their survival at stake, the British formed the first operational research, or teams. By pooling the expertise of mathematicians, physicists, and other scientists in or teams, the British were able to achieve significant technological and tactical breakthroughs. When the Americans entered the war, they formed what they called operations research teams, based on the successful British model, to solve similar problems. The teams used early computers to perform the thousands of calculations involved in mathematical modeling. When the war was over, the applicability of operations research to problems in industry gradually became apparent. New industrial technologies were being put into use and transportation and communication were becoming more complicated. These developments brought with them a host of problems that could not be solved easily by conventional means. Increasingly, specialists were called on to help managers come up with answers to these new problems. Over the years, procedures were formalized into what is now more generally called the Management Science School. 1.10 The Systems Approach. rather than dealing separately with the various segments of an organization. The systems approach to management views the organization as a unified, purposeful system composed of interrelated parts. This approach gives managers a way of looking at the organization as a whole and as a part of the larger, external environment. Systems theory tells us that the activity of any segment of an organization affects, in varying degrees, the activity of every other segment. 1.11 Principles of Management. From the management thought described earlier, following basic principles of management can be derived. Principle of policy making. An effective management needs a clear and well thought of policy. Principle of improvement and adjustment. Organization grows steadily and surely. Management should therefore be flexible and accept improvement whenever necessary. Principle of balance. There should be proper balance between duties, responsibilities, rights and authority. All sections should work in harmony. Principle of individual effectiveness. Increased effectiveness of individuals in the organization results from training, good wages, policy, human relations and healthy surroundings. Principle of relationship of task and accomplishment. Everybody should be placed in his job assignment according to his skills, knowledge, aptitude and experience. Principle of simplicity. Working should be as simple as possible. Principle of specialization. Specialization increase productivity and quality. Principle of standardization. It helps in marketing product and helps management in control and coordination. Principle of financial incentives. Sound wage policy based on financial incentives elicits maximum cooperation from workers. Principle of planning. Planned work ensures smooth running of organization. Principle of control. However disciplined, reasonable and efficient a worker may be, he needs as supervision and proper control. Effective control decides the future of the organization. Principle of leadership. Supervision and control precedes the leadership, guidance and direction. A good leadership and better direction ensures cooperation. Principle of cooperation. Cooperation begets confidence and mutual respect, which are necessary for proper working. Principle of responsibility and authority. Duties and responsibilities and rights and authority go together. Principle of exception. Top management should be made free from routine nature of jobs so that he may devote more time for decision making, analyzing problems and offer solutions for these. 1.12 Emerging principles of management and future managers. In future there will be more uncertainties in the organizational environment due to changes in technology, social structure, human aspirations, governmental policies, political and international relations in the world. There will be more complexity in organizational structures due to growth, reorganizational and increased specialization. Many of the employees will be more difficult to motivate, due to changed values, more educational qualifications and less reverence for authority. The ratio of females in workforce will increase. Money will no longer be the sole motivating force and non-financial incentives may play a more important role. Under these conditions managers at all levels will face greater difficulties in decision-making, communicating, planning and control. The emerging principles of management, in this context are: principle of management by perception. Management should have the ability to perceive future economic, political and social trends and their impact on organizations. Principle of social responsibility to identify and analyze those social forces which have an impact on the organization. Principle of effective organizational development. This should focus on economic goals and an improvement of operational performance. Principle of effective management. Information system management should have timely information from them as to control present and future control operations. Principle of effective employees utilization. Placing employees in positions where their skills are fully utilized. Tasks before future managers. Besides the basic tasks of coordinating the working of individuals, providing them with appropriate working environment and to motivate them to accomplish the predetermined objectives of the organization. The other specific tasks will be technical and social trends forecasting. This will be necessary to optimally invest the resources. Creativity. He should be able to conceptualize and create new ideas quickly. Initiative. He will take more initiatives and more risks. Management by objectives. Management and appraisal by objectives will be a norm in future as workers will be more educated and will have higher levels of aspirations. Decision-making. Many routine decisions will be programmed and computers will be used extensively for decision-making. Motivation. Motivation of workforce will be more complex in future. There will be change in value system, higher levels of education and less reverence for hierarchy. Reconciliation of conflicting interests. There will be increased need to enhance skills in dealing with conflicts. Development of total system. He will have to develop system-oriented approaches, which may deal with broad problems comprehensively rather than by piecemeal approach. Clark Wilson and others has given us a practical and statistically validated profile of managerial skills, see Table 1.2. Wilson's managerial skills profile focuses on 11 observable categories of managerial behavior. Look at the screen. Table 1.2, Evolution of the 2 LSD Century Manager 1.13, Summary. Management is the practice of consciously and continually shaping organizations. All organizations have people who are responsible for helping them achieve their goals. These people are called managers. Theory is a coherent group of assumptions put forth to explain the relationship between two or more observable facts. Scientific management theory developed from the need to increase productivity. Frederick W. Taylor, 1956 to 1915, described 4 basic principles: the development of a true science of management, so that the best method for performing each task could be determined, the scientific selection of workers, so that each worker would be given responsibility for the task for which he or she was best suited, the scientific education and development of the worker, and the intimate, friendly cooperation between management and labor. Henry Fayol, 1981 to 1975, believed that sound management practice falls into certain patterns that can be identified and analyzed. Fayol insisted that management was a skill like any other and could be taught once its underlying principles were understood. The German sociologist Max Weber, 1864 to 1920, developed a theory of bureaucratic management that stressed the need for a strictly defined hierarchy governed by clearly defined regulations and lines of authority. Mary Parker Follett, 1868 to 1933, introduced many new elements, especially in the area of human relations and organizational structure. Mary Parker Follett emphasized that the managers should motivate subordinates for job performance instead of merely demanding it, a pull rather than push strategy. McGregor formulated 2 sharply contrasting sets of assumptions about human nature. His theory X assumptions were pessimistic and negative and, according to McGregor's interpretation, typical of how managers traditionally perceived employees. To help managers break with this negative tradition, McGregor formulated his theory Y, a modern and positive set of assumptions about people. McGregor believed managers could accomplish more through others by viewing them as self-energized, committed, responsible, and creative beings. Theory Z was first identified as a unique management approach by William Ouchy. He cited several companies as examples of Type Z organizations and proposed that a Theory Z management approach could lead to greater employee job satisfaction, lower rates of absenteeism and turnover, higher quality products, and better overall financial performance for U.S. firms adapting Theory Z management practices. Total quality management, TQM, means that the organization's culture is defined by and supports the constant attainment of customer satisfaction through an integrated system of tools, techniques, and training. This involves the continuous improvement of organizational processes, resulting in high-quality products and services. The contingency approach encourages managers to view organizational behavior within a situational context. According to this modern perspective, Evolving situations, no hard and fast rules, determine when and where. Various management techniques are appropriate. Organizations differ in the quality of the systems they develop and maintain, and in the results they achieve. Different models of organizational behavior substantially cause varying results. These models constitute the belief system that dominates management's thought and affects management's actions in each organization. Autocratic model of management. In an autocratic environment, the managerial orientation is formal, official authority. Management believes that it knows what is best and that the employee's obligation is to follow orders. It assumes that employees have to be directed, persuaded, and pushed into performance, and such prompting is management's task. Management does the thinking, the employees obey the orders. This conventional view of management leads to tight control of employees at work. Custodial model of management. The custodial approach leads to employee dependence on the organization, rather than being dependent on their boss. Employees now depend on organizations for their security and welfare. Employees working in a custodial environment become psychologically preoccupied with their economic rewards and benefits. As a result of their treatment, they are well maintained and contented. However, contentment does not necessarily produce strong motivation. It may produce only passive cooperation. Supportive model of management. The supportive model depends on leadership instead of power or money. Through leadership, management provides a climate to help employees grow and accomplish in the interests of the organization the things of which they are capable. The leader assumes that workers are not by nature passive and resistant to organizational needs, but they are made so by an inadequately supportive climate at work. They will take responsibility, develop a drive to contribute, and improve them if management will give them a chance. Collegial model of management. The term collegial relates to a body of people having a common purpose. The collegial model, which embodies a team concept, collegial model tends to be more useful with programmed work, an intellectual environment, and considerable job freedom. The collegial model depends on management's building a feeling of partnership with employees. The result is that employees feel needed and useful. The managerial orientation is toward teamwork. Management is the coach that builds a better team. The employee response to this situation is responsibility. The psychological result of the collegial approach for the employee is self-discipline. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.